Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to If Plants Could Talk. This is Garrett. I'm your host. This conversation took place on March 7th, 2023, with my very special guest, Paige of Cactus Queen, but you guys might know her as My Cactus Bad, My Cactus Hood on Instagram. Paige is the owner of a business called Cactus Queen, offering a plethora of columnar cacti to the public. They are located at 2423 Langford Street in Dallas, Texas. Shout out to all the Texas listeners, especially those of you in Dallas. They are open Thursday through Friday, 11 to 5, Saturday to Sunday, 10 to 4. And it's like a trap queen, only spikier. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. If you don't follow My Cactus Bad, My Cactus Hood on Instagram, I highly recommend it. Her page is a lot of fun, very entertaining, and tons of beautiful columnar cacti there. So, columnar cacti have a special place in my heart. Today is a full moon, everybody. So if you're a weirdo like me, cleanse and charge your crystals. Why charge a crystal that could possibly have negative energy? Cleanse it first, perhaps. Consider cleansing it first. Consider charging your crystals in the full moon tonight, or using collected rainwater to make collected rain moon water. My favorite thing to do. All right, I'll shut up already. Yeah, I want to take a moment to tell you guys about my sponsors. If you scroll down into the description of this episode, you will find links to Mezcala Nursery, located in Long Beach, California, Green Touch Nursery, located in Bellflower, California. Big shout out to Plantly.io. You can type in Plantly.io into your web browser or download the free Plantly app on Android or iOS. If you are interested in becoming a vendor, I have provided a link for you to do so in the description of this episode. Real Mushrooms is a mushroom supplement company offering hot water extracts in both powder and capsule form. I have provided links in the description of this episode outlining all the amazing health benefits of these mushrooms. If you're ready to make a purchase, you can use my link or type in If Plants Could Talk at checkout and get 10% off all future orders. All right, here's Paige. My Cactus Bad, My Cactus Hood. What's up, Paige? Welcome to If Plants Could
Great.
Talk.
Nice to be here. I'm super excited.
Yeah. So, where are you? Where in the world are you speaking to me from?
I'm from Dallas, Texas. That's where I was pretty much born and raised, and that's where I still currently am.
Awesome, awesome. And when did you first discover plants?
So, I mean, I probably first discovered like house plants maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And that was back when I knew nothing. I still don't know as much as I need to know, but I knew nothing. And so I treated them all the same and I killed them all because I didn't even think to Google. And then I honestly really fell in love with cactus. So I'm also a wedding photographer by trade. That's what I've been doing the last 15 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. And with that, I get to do some really cool destination weddings. And I got to do a really cool wedding in San Miguel de Allende, which is in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I saw a big cactus in person. Like I had seen, saguaros and pictures, but nothing in person. And it was these beautiful giant Mexican fence posts. They were just like all in front of these beautiful walls and with the architecture, the color, and then lots of the like intricate carved doors and everything. I just was like, this is amazing. And I think it was like, that wedding was probably 6 years ago now. And as soon as I got back to Dallas, I just was like, oh, I'm going to get cactus. Like, it's so cool. I love them. And I fell in love with the city too, overall. And so that was just kind of a part of it. And got back here and realized we don't really have any of the columnar style cactus. And that just kind of started my journey. Started searching nurseries.
You're like the queen of columnar cacti because I feel like
Yeah.
they're very underrated. First of all, they don't get the love that they deserve. Like you go
Mhm.
to cactus and succulent shows, there. I think I saw at the LA Cactus and Succulent Show maybe like 5 columnar
Yeah.
cacti,
Yeah.
and shout out to Jeremy Precocious. He brought most of them or all of them.
Really.
But I love that you're doing it because that's what I fell in love with first. And the Pachysterias marginatus, look at me, I know the name. Those are so cool with like the Spanish style or Mexican style architecture. And when they're
Mhm.
walled up, I just like that's a vibe that I
Yeah.
love. That's like
Yeah.
the vibe.
I love it. Honestly, I feel like they definitely are underrated, but it's like they're so grand, like
Yeah.
those even I've seen taller, but when I first saw them, I think the tallest ones I was seeing was like about 15 feet or so, which is still huge.
Hmm.
And then I actually last year I was able to help this lady who had to take some down because they had been getting rain in California. She was worried that the whole thing was going to fall over and they had little kids in the backyard. So we measured the tallest piece was 28 feet. And I was like, holy shit, that's wild. And I know they get even bigger.
Yeah.
So,
Is that how you like, do you get lucky in sourcing sometimes like that? Like I know on Craigslist, people are like, oh, I gotta get this thing out of my yard. They don't even know what they have. They have some giant cactus because they have kids or whatever. People are like chop these things up and like throw them in dumpsters. It's
mhm.
wild how
It is
easily they get.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do get lucky every once in a while. Um I try to be very friendly. I mean, like I'm just kind of outgoing as it is, but I've made a lot of good connections with some landscapers because that's where they'll have the clients that be like, I need this out of my yard. I just want it gone, or I'm redoing, or I'm you want it trimmed back or whatever.
Hmm.
And I still feel like I need more landscapers because I'll see, like I'll go out on my trips and I see chopped up pieces on the sides of people's, for bulk pickup or whatever. I'm like, oh God, no, I could have taken that. But I do get that sometimes. And if it's like something really good, like that one in particular, that gosh, I want to say she said it was 30 years old. And they had just moved into the house and there was a lady who lived there before. Um, and that's why she knew the age of it. And I made a trip basically just specifically for that because it cost me a lot of money in gas and hotels to get all the way out to California from Texas.
Wow.
But I also have like wholesalers and growers and things that I go to out there.
Of course.
So I fill in like little gaps and plus I try to bring back, a bunch of different types at once. But yeah, I have a lot of landscapers and then I just go to a lot of the really good wholesalers or growers. Is really I try to go to the growers. So
I feel like with columnar, like that's probably the biggest attraction for people is to landscape with them. Yeah. More so than
but
like collecting them potted.
so in Texas, we have to though. We have to keep them potted.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I know it's why, and people do it here. They love them. So I do have a few of my customers who landscape with them, and they basically have to build like a mini greenhouse over it in the winter.
Hmm.
We're pretty, honestly, we're pretty mild here in Dallas, but we do get really crazy drops. Like right before Christmas, it was like 10 degrees overnight.
Ooh.
And yeah, that would have killed anything. I mean, like even agaves can barely take that. And then we just had like a month ago, we had like 3 days of ice. And we don't get like snow, we get like ice.
Mm.
And it's where like cars and 18 wheelers are like sliding off of bridges and stuff. Like it's really, really bad. So obviously having that on top of any kind of cactus, they don't love it. So
Yeah.
yeah, most everything is potted and I like I go a little above and beyond. And so everything that everyone buys from my shop comes in a terracotta pot. I don't do nursery pots because I try to one make it look nice and then also try to set people up for success because it's super humid here in Texas. And so
Yeah.
anytime you water with a plastic pot, that moisture is just sitting in there. It's not drying out as well as with like something porous. So,
Oh, I've never thought of that. Huh. Maybe I should
mhm.
do more terracottas. I got some humidity here too, quite a bit. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you sell more cuttings or rooted plants?
I would say the majority of what I sell is cuttings.
Nice.
I, yeah, I've been doing it for a few years now, so I kind of see the cactus that do really well on just rooting on their own. I've had a couple of kinds where I've gotten like for some reason Pelasgia chichipes, I think that's how you pronounce it. They're real tough for me to root, and I do not know why. So those guys I will hold on to or try to find them rooted.
Hmm.
But everything else I just sell unrooted, and I really don't have any issues because they will just kind of root on their own when they're ready.
And do you ship as well? I want to go into like where how it started, when it started, but do you ship as well? I guess we're already like a little into it.
Yeah. I do, but honestly, right now, I run this all by myself. Like my
Mm,
husband is phenomenal. He helps me do as much as he can. And then I have another girl, Brittany. She's amazing. She helps me on the weekends and things when I need extra help. But like social media, shipping, and all that kind of stuff just falls on me right now since we're not like big enough to have employees yet. And
mm,
most people, when they want me to ship, they want to see all of the inventory I have, which is just impossible because I
yeah.
don't get like, a lot of nurseries are like, oh, here's a 5 gallon pot. They all look the same. They're all the
Hmm.
exact same height and whatever, or pretty close. Versus like we pretty much sell by the foot. So I have like a million different unique sizes and pieces.
Yeah.
So when I do ship, it's like if I feel like I have a little extra time, I'll throw a few on Instagram to be like, hey, if anybody wants these, up for grabs as far as shipping goes. And that's how I do it.
That's cool. Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
started selling columnar and I don't really sell anymore, but originally I was selling it, especially during the pandemic boom. I guess that would have been in 2019. Uh
Mhm.
I was shipping cuttings like crazy, dude. It was wild. Everyone was buying Peruvian apples and then rooted even I shipped like I don't know, like a 5 foot euphorbia, a rooted euphorbia. I was like learning how to finagle boxes and stuff. Eventually it slowed down and kind of puttered out, but I admire you and what you're doing with the in person, especially. I mean, it's got to be a lot to be juggling. Like you have like a full blown like nursery, basically. You have a whole huge gigantic garden, and then taking on doing online as well. Which sounds like a lot. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get to where we have enough of a customer flow eventually where we can have employees,
Hmm.
like more steady employees. So then I can offer more, like have someone more dedicated to, at least taking pictures and throwing stuff up on online because I do get people that's like one of the biggest questions I get asked every single week. And like I said, I try to do it when I have the time. I just don't have a lot of time. And I have 3 kids and a
Oh,
husband.
yeah.
So it's kind of like having 4 kids. No, my husband's the best. Uh, um, so I just, I try to do it when I can, but my goal obviously is to grow enough where I can have employees.
Well, and it's an investment. That's the great thing about plants. They're not really going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're just building and building and building, and that inventory is really just like, I guess, a stockpile. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, are you doing this full time or?
This is pretty much full time. Yes. So I had done photography full time for about the last, well, 15 years. And then I was doing a little cactus on the side right before the pandemic happened.
Mhm.
And honestly, that was just to offset the cost of me collecting stuff. Like I wanted more stuff. And so I was like, oh, I'll get a few extra to sell so I
Mhm.
can have more for myself. And so I was doing a little bit of that. And I was just like throwing them up on Facebook, honestly, like that's how I'd sell them.
Yeah.
And then the friggin' pandemic started. And of course, with wedding photography, it just was, I mean,
Yeah.
there was like 5 months where I couldn't photograph a single wedding. And that was our family's income, like full force. My husband was not, I mean, he has his own like small business too, but I was so busy with photography that was our main income.
Providing.
Yeah. And so going to literally making $0 overnight was just crazy because with photography, I was always almost like I was never concerned with where money was going to come from. I was always booking so many and turning away like 20 to 30 weddings a year because I was already booked.
Wow.
So it was like a night and day shift. And I think honestly, like we were definitely a little terrified. And we
Yeah.
had some funds set aside because we were planning to do our 15-year vow renewal in San Miguel. And so we just kind of pushed. And that was like the first time I think I went to for a multiple day trip and I was like, okay, I'm going to get this done. And I just started in my backyard at that point. Um,
Awesome.
and yeah, we've just grown from there. So yeah, this is like, I would call this for sure full time because this is where all my time goes. But I still shoot probably about like 9 to 10 weddings a year. So
Nice. And so now
yeah.
you're renting a space for this?
Yes. Yeah, we're leasing. It's a half acre. It's a pretty
Wow.
big lot. Yeah. Yeah. Because we used to be in an apartment, which it was actually really cool vibes. Like it was a loft in downtown Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
huge. It was like 14-foot ceilings, like literal, like I think I want to say they're like 10-foot windows, like on all corners. So lots and lots of light. It was just on the third floor of this apartment complex. And some of my like 10-foot pieces could only go in the freight elevator, which of course is like the opposite side of where the apartment was. And people that found me on Google, they would call me angry sometimes. I'm like, I've been driving around looking for you, not knowing that there was like a number attached. We were on the third floor. They couldn't see us from the ground. So
Wow.
yeah.
You should have done
So
a
our
loft
spot,
full of cacti.
I know. It looked cool though.
I
I'm
bet
not
it
gonna lie.
did. Yeah, I bet it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. And so yeah, now we're just in a it's wonderful because I have so much space. I think my greenhouse right now is 2,600 square feet or something. I think it's right around there.
That's great.
And honestly, I could probably put like 5 more of that same size and still have room for parking. So um it's really big, but our biggest drawback right now is we don't have electricity or a bathroom.
Mm,
Yeah, which is not bad. Most customers that come in, they're not spending, hours and hours. I do have some, but there's an apartment complex across the streets, and thankfully they allow like me to go to the bathroom when I'm up there working for so long. But
I was more so wondering about like electricity for heat in the winter. I imagine you're gonna have to face some challenges like covering them and getting them all inside these hoop houses or
yeah, so
heating it.
generator, that's what we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's
sucks. I'm not gonna lie.
dedication.
Yeah. We literally because during the day, even if we're getting really cold at night, once the sun is out, it's still keeping the greenhouse pretty warm just by the sun.
Yeah, yeah.
So as soon as like around 7 or 8 o'clock hits on like a 32 to 35-degree day, I drive up to my shop, turn the generator on. We have propane tanks and heaters, turn those on, and then go back up at about 7 o'clock in the morning to turn stuff off, just so we don't waste and have to spend more money on gas and propane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the most fun. I've been trying to get electricity since I want to say I started last July, and right now I'm just being held back by my landlord, unfortunately.
You have to like pull
uh,
permits and all that stuff.
there's a like in the city of Dallas requires a land survey,
Mm.
and with as the landowner he has one. But if I were to just go get one, because at first I was like, I'm just gonna go get one because he's not responding to me. And I contacted some companies for them to do a commercial land survey. It's gonna be around $15,000.
Holy shit.
No. They do like residential surveys for like $500. So I was like, oh, fine, easy. I'll pay it, no problem. Like,
You froze for a moment. Sorry.
oh, sorry. I was just saying we pretty much have made it through winter now. I think we're done with freezes and now we're in the clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Buy yourself some time. When does it start freezing? Like December?
Usually November.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but it's wild because we'll get like our first freeze, and then most of December will be like highs in the 60s and 70s, and it's fine. It always like a couple of day drop is where it gets really, really cold, and then it just warms back up.
Mm, mm. Have you you did lose some, right? Didn't I see a
Mhm.
story you had a freak freeze or was it a storm? What
It was
happened?
actually a storm, yeah. So our biggest thing that we have to worry about right now is Texas has a lot of tornadoes. And
What?
well, yeah. We actually just had a worry a couple of days ago. Thankfully, nothing like there was some pretty intense winds, so it pulled off like some of our track on the greenhouse, but nothing like bad damage, thankfully. But yeah, so we didn't have a full greenhouse up in the summer. I just had this structure that was really like a shade structure, but it was steel pipes and everything, like really
Mhm.
heavy duty. But we had it was literally 10 minutes, a storm whipped through, and it was like 50 or 60 mile an hour winds. And my husband was there. I was actually in New York photographing a wedding.
Mm.
It's like he said at one time he was like trying to hold on to a pole because it was like going up and out. And he said he thought he was going to like get carried away almost. So it kind of all collapsed and like the pipe started like breaking. And so it just all collapsed in on itself.
Mm.
We lost like 70% of my inventory.
Yeah, I just remember I saw that they got wrecked. What a bummer. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
It seems like people in Texas have had a lot of struggles with these kinds of things. I have two friends that lost their entire collections in that freeze. You guys didn't get that freeze a couple years back, did you?
We did actually, yeah. So the first one that was the really bad one in 2021. We were actually not, we were about to transition into the loft space. So I did lose about $20,000 worth of inventory at that point because we were pretty small.
Oh my God.
Because we'd had like my husband built me a little greenhouse in the back of our house to keep everything protected, but we lost electricity for almost 5 days.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and at that point we did not even think, because I've lived in Texas my whole life. I don't ever remember losing electricity for that long.
Mm.
We didn't really think about having a generator because we're like, I mean, it's fine, it's a house, I don't have electricity. Unfortunately it did not. I lost the majority of what I had there. Like I was able to bring some stuff inside, and then keep it in the house. So the house got down to still like probably about 40 degrees because it was so cold for so long.
Oh, no.
But the things inside at least made it. And then, yeah, we lost everything except for I had 2 organ pipes survive, and they were snowed on and everything. It was wild.
That's rad. Organ pipes are cool. Are those the ones that have the furry on it? Is it have fur on it?
No,
No, that's the Mexican
really,
organ pipe. Which one is that? I'm trying to
yeah.
remember.
So just what is it? The Stenoserius, is that the one on TH? Always forget how to pronounce it. It's the one that's like tons and tons in Arizona. I don't know if it's native to Arizona or not.
It like lines the border. I know that because I've seen my friend posting them all the time, and he lives near the border. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What was I gonna ask you about that? Oh, does insurance cover those kinds of things?
So our first, with the really bad freeze in 2021, my insurance had literally moved over to our new location because
Wow.
they required it for me to get the keys. I think 4 days before that freeze happened. So they did not cover that first one because
Yeah.
it was not the proper address. So we lost, yeah, like I said, about $20,000 of plants at that point, and just had to figure out what to do. And then the storm last year, yes, they covered it. So when we were hit in September of last year, the biggest issue as far as like business and insurance on my end is that I'm not like a standard nursery. Like I don't just place an order and get it delivered to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with a company, and they're actually really great. Like they did make the process very easy. But for me to replenish all that I lost, it took me about 3 months, like multiple trips, so much
Wow.
work and potting. And so like oh, let me just place this order, because they basically will give you replacement costs, but that replacement cost doesn't like pay my bills or anything. So
Yeah.
um yeah, we were struggling for a minute. I mean, like honestly, we're still getting caught up. Like we were not able to pay our mortgage for a little while because I kept having to pay like lease at the space we were at.
Mm.
We didn't lose that. And yeah, we're still just kind of up even back from September.
Well, I commend you for sticking to it. I feel like you're not alone in that. That during this time everything's so expensive. I
Yeah.
noticed a big downturn in people buying plants online and stuff. So I've basically haven't put anything in my shop in months, and yeah, it's tough right now. So
Yeah. 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 There are definitely the days where I'm like, what am I doing? Should I still keep pushing forward? And, it's like overcoming the next obstacle, the next obstacle, the next one. And it's like, okay, we made it through a freeze. All right. And then we had to make it through something else. And then it was like, trying to make sure I could keep enough inventory. And then it was more storms and this and that. And yeah, it's just small business woes.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the universe tests us and eventually provides,
Yeah.
once we get through that, once we're done
I
ducking
was
all the
like, are we
punches.
done yet?
Yeah.
Oh,
So at least you have the photography too to lean on. That's cool. I actually studied photography too. I love photography. Did you start with like film back in the day? Well, where did that get inspired? You said you've been doing it for 15
so
years.
mhm. Actually, I was inspired by my dad. My dad does photography,
Cool.
and I was always in art growing up, but I really just did like drawing and painting.
Hmm.
And there was like a high school project where we had to do a project with 4 different medias, and 2 of those had to be something we had never touched before. We did actually like started with like night photography and then open shutter. And
Ooh,
so
long
he showed me like,
exposures.
yeah, long exposure, sorry.
Yeah.
So like the coolest portions, I think, like to start off with before I knew anything about photography, is we were playing with shadows, and then we
Yeah.
did this one picture of my sister. It was very like ghostly, like
Hmm.
where we had basically had her in this like high neck, like all the way to the ground white dress, and she had moved across. And then we did like, a couple of the flashes or whatever. So we basically caught her at the end, but then you like saw all her movements from behind, and it was so rad. And that's really what was like, oh, I love this. This is so fun. And he bought me my first DSLR when I was 18, I think. And I just honestly was self-taught from there.
Uh-huh. That's
Mhm.
awesome. It's like
Yeah.
painting with light when the
Yeah.
shutters open. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so cool. You can like, and like people are so innovative now. Have you ever seen this wool thing that they're doing where they like make sparks and they
Yep.
people are doing intricate artwork
I'm telling
with
you.
an open shutter?
I know. It's so cool. Like there,
Uh,
and it's also neat to see like all the manipulation and things that people have figured out how to do. I mean, I do shoot a little bit of film
cool.
just for fun, but I started off with digital. I actually have, what is it? This is my Hasselblad. I don't know if you
Nice.
can tell. I
I
love
have
a
one right here.
Oh, do you? Nice.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. When I was getting into wanting to get back into film or getting into film photography. Like my dad told me a little, but I didn't really wasn't really interested in it probably until like maybe 7 or 8 years ago or something. And so I got a little just Canon AE1, the little
Yeah,
35
classic.
millimeter. Uh-huh. And then my dad is a freaking amazing, like he finds the craziest deals.
Hmm.
Um, so he was at an estate sale and he bought a Hasselblad. It had I want to say 4 lenses, 2 film backs, and like the little viewfinder that turns the photo around, like a lot of stuff. And it was like $100 or something crazy, and it was
Cool.
in pristine condition. So he gave that one to me, thankfully, and that's what I use. Sometimes I do a lot of digital just because weddings so fast paced that I don't always have time to do film.
Do people ever request it? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
actually.
I feel like they
Um,
would.
Yeah, I don't do a ton of it. Like on my longer wedding days, I'll bring it out.
Hmm.
But I actually have a couple that I'm shooting their wedding in Brooklyn, and they specifically requested like extra film, so we're gonna work that in.
That's cool. Do you do it solo or you have a team or
It's just me.
rad?
I do offer like second photographer. I mean, it's an add-on, so it's more, if people want to spend more money. Um, but honestly, like unless it's just a really crazy day where too many things are going on in too many different places. I started doing photography like my first wedding was a free Craigslist. Like I put myself on Craigslist,
Nice.
and I was able to learn really how to be in all the most important places so I don't miss anything. I mean, obviously I can't put myself in more than one place at a
You're
time,
all
but
you're all running.
yeah. Yeah, so I would say I shoot probably like 85-90% of my weddings by myself. And then I do have some couples that add on a second shooter.
Rad. Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel
Yeah.
like when you know your way around a digital camera, it actually helps you with like film because like I would use it as like a light meter for I would like set so the film's like 400, right? ISO 400. I would set the digital to the same. Like
Yeah.
okay, it works like that. Now I have it like memorized. So when I shoot
Uh-huh.
film, it's like I'm basing
Yeah.
it off of what I learned with the digital camera. So I love
Yeah.
photography. I bet it serves you really well too in your business, like in marketing and
Mhm.
posting and
Yeah.
your reels too, like your reels. I was just watching all of them. You might have saw a bunch of like creeper likes from me right now, just because I was sitting there scrolling through, like just trying to like get your energy and stuff. And I was like, wow, they're hilarious. First of all, a lot of them are entertaining. I like that you're like not afraid to be yourself and your personality shows, and you're not just like strictly business kind of thing, So
Yeah.
cool.
I try to. I mean, like when I first started my Instagram, like I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting more into this. I'm not just doing it at my house anymore. I should have some kind of page for somewhere to, people to land, like find out about me and whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like one of the things I was like, I appreciate any kind of plant shop, but sometimes it's just like, just strictly it feels more like business, like just plants, which is fine. Like I love to see it, but then the ones that I always felt like I really loved or connected with was when you could see
Who they are.
weird things happening. Like I know East Austin Succulents, they do a lot of hilarious reels too, and it's fun to see theirs. But yeah, I was like, I want to show me. And that was even how I came up with because I had to come up with a username
Uh-huh.
for my page. And I was like, I don't want to just be like a freaking blah 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 plants or blah 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 cactus. I was like,
Yeah.
there's a million of those. And so I was like, okay, who am I? What do I love? I obviously love cactus and I really love ludicrous. So some people, I would say some people get it, some people don't, but the people that get it, we're on the same wavelength, so it's great.
Yeah, I told you my cactus does your cactus does shit that my cactus wishes it could.
Oh my gosh. I actually got to go to a Ludacris concert a couple of months ago.
Luda.
Dude, it was the most amazing. It was exactly what you would assume would be a Ludacris concert. Like, because he had so many freaking hits over he's been doing it like 20 something years now.
Yeah.
But it was just like a back to back, like he hit every single hit over the last 20 years. It was amazing. I love it.
So are you like a little bit hippie, a little bit hood? Am I getting that wrong?
Yes,
Or
for
yeah.
sure. 100%.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense because you got the artsy thing going on.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always loved like a lot of soulful music, hip hop, R&B, all that. That's what I've honestly, like back when I was in high school, I think everyone listened to rap and hip hop, but I just have always loved anything with a good beat. I
Yeah.
love jazz and a lot of Latin music too, anything with like just a little bit of movement to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
What about Lauren Hill? Did you listen to Lauren Hill?
I do a little. I would say when I'm not listening to podcasts, which honestly is the majority of what I listen to now,
Cool.
that I listen to mostly like hip hop. I also take a dance class usually
Oh,
every Tuesday.
is it hip
Um,
hop or
mhm. Yeah,
nice?
yeah, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's usually what I'm listening to. And I actually have a little soft side for there's like a couple of small, I guess you would consider them like maybe indie. I don't know. But I love like Penny and Sparrow is another one of my very favorites. And they're just two dudes with a guitar harmonizing beautifully.
Cool.
Definitely no hip hop dancing in there, but lyrically they're like lyrical geniuses. So I like that too.
Awesome. Do you have any other hobbies besides for the gardening, the dancing, the photography? What are you and your husband like to do? You guys like to travel? It sounds like you're
Oh,
doing some traveling.
love traveling. My husband doesn't love traveling as much as I do, though, unfortunately.
Well,
We've been places, but I've got one of my best girlfriends. She's my travel buddy,
mm,
and we go all the places when we can afford it. So right now, we've not been able to go anywhere. I think where did we go last? We went to Croatia
whoa, that's a unique one.
last year. Yes, it's really like I love finding a good deal. So I'll find like a crazy flight deal And I will call her up and I'll be like, hey, I found like a $400 round trip flight to Croatia. Are you ready to book it now? And like, we just figure everything out after that. So we did that with Croatia, with Italy, Iceland. I think those are our three major ones so far.
Spontaneous as fuck.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I love it.
Are you like an Aries? What you
I I am a Virgo, I think is what I am.
I don't know anything about any of that
I
stuff,
know,
but
I honestly don't.
something people say.
Yeah, I know. Just what the
Mm.
people say, it's fine.
I believe in a little bit. I mean, I'm kind of out there with that kind of stuff, but not so much the astrology. I'm
Yeah.
just more into weird mystical stuff, mysticism and stuff. So is Croatia like isn't that like Viking territory?
It is a little, yeah. Actually, we did a little tour. So it was also where they film a lot of Game of Thrones. We
That
were
makes sense.
in Dubrovnik, which is where they have multiple like the major places. They have tons of Game of Thrones tours. I actually have never watched it, surprisingly.
Mm,
We don't have a ton of time to devote to TV, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately. We work all the time, so
that's a good thing.
yeah, it is great. But yeah, when we went there, I didn't even know until we got there, and it's like every corner you see, it's like Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, that makes sense because yeah. But Croatia's freaking, I think it's slept on, dude. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
We stayed in Dubrovnik, which is also called like the old town, and that's where a lot of the Game of Thrones stuff happens. Very beautiful. Like you can only get into this city. I want to say it's something like 100 to 200 steps. So literally the only way in and out is down these steep steps.
Cool.
Uh, yeah, it's super rad.
It's like
And
medieval or
yes, yeah, a
yeah,
little medieval for sure.
that's cool.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. And then we stayed there mostly, but because my friend and I, we travel the same, we like don't stop. We go, go, go. We wake up in the morning. What can we see today? We're going there. And so we traveled all the way up north, and up north is more like very European countryside feeling. And we went
Mm,
to, oh, what's it called? Plitvice or something. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like a national park with tons of beautiful like waterfalls and blue pools and these waterfalls. So we got to see a little bit of everything. It's really awesome.
yeah, my lady will never stop talking about Iceland. She's been there, I guess, a couple times, and she's loved it so much. She wants to take us there.
Dude,
And I've only seen like little bits and pieces of it from like watching TV or on YouTube or whatever.
I would say probably one of my favorite places for sure. When we went travel all together, actually my husband did go on that trip with us. And so it was me, my husband, and my travel friend. And we rented a camper van and we were there, I think 10 days or something. And we did like the entire, it's called the Ring Road, basically the ring around the whole island. And I would not like trade all the things that we did for the world because it was just amazing. I mean, I think a lot of people will fly in and
Hmm.
like go to like Keflavik or Reykjavik or something and just kind of stay there and do some of the tours. But then you miss all the coolest parts of the island because like you basically have to go there and back, every day. So we stayed in the camper van, stayed at campsites and went all around the whole thing.
You road
And,
tripped it?
oh yeah, yeah,
That's rad.
dude, it was the best.
That's probably the way to do any kind of traveling, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see
We
the
did.
waterfalls and stuff?
Oh yeah. I think we tried to stop at every waterfall we possibly could. We did lots of hiking. There was this one, uh, it's called, I think, Landsmanlauger or something like that. There's like this road, and they told us specifically when we rented the van, they're like, don't go down these roads. They're called F4 roads. It's only for four-wheel. You cannot do it in this van.
Hmm.
Well, we really wanted to see there's natural hot springs in the middle of nowhere. And like I think we were there when like the Aurora Borealis was like just kind of being able to be shown. It wasn't like super bright.
Cool.
We're like, we're gonna do it anyways. And we almost wrecked that van. We ended up having like $1,500 because we had to drive through rivers to get to this place. We picked up some hitchhikers along the way, which like hitchhiking in Iceland is just a normal thing. And like, you don't have to worry about people. There's like hardly any crime. And so we finally get there and literally like, I mean, people are like skinny dipping in this, like it's nighttime. People are in the hot springs skinny dipping and you just kind of get in the water and we got to see like a little bit of the Aurora Borealis in this like middle of nowhere. It's the coolest.
Fuck yeah. I like your style, picking up hitchhikers and driving through rivers.
Yes. They helped us too a little bit. Like we
They
because
were
there was
like
like a
locals or
no, they were from where were they from? I want to say they were from like Poland or something. I can't
mm,
remember. But they were actually out there because, you know, on an island like that, the weather can turn so drastically so quickly. And so they were actually biking where we were going to get to the same place. And it got so windy, they could not even like bike forward at all. And they had already exhausted themselves. And so they're just sitting on the side of the road for someone to come through. And we were like, heck yeah, come on in.
awesome.
Yeah.
I know that Iceland has their own power too. That's a fun fact I know. They like source their own power and they don't export or import and they like I don't think they even charge for it. I think they have free energy.
Awesome. There's
Yeah.
a lot of really cool things about Iceland. I would say like just the fact that there's like hardly any crime. And
Yeah,
a lot
right.
of the crime that happens is usually dummies coming into the country and doing stupid stuff, but it's super safe there. It's really cool.
How is Dallas during these times? Did the pandemic have any effect on the safety and do you guys have like a homeless population?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely Dallas has always been pretty bad. It's not like as
Like
bad
a
as
city,
LA.
right? It's a big city
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, it's a big city. We actually had it was right before the pandemic happened. We had what was called Tent City. Um,
Mm,
and basically it was where a lot of the homeless people were, you know, at least gathering and like a lot of different like ministries and other things would go there and just make sure everyone had, you know, tents and things, you know, just to kind of keep some people fed and whatnot. Well, I guess the city decided that they didn't like how it looked and they made them all disperse. And so they kind of had to move from place to place and place to place. So it was a little, you know, it's always the officials, you know, they think they know best, but it is what it is.
it just pushes them into darker corners of the city where they can't be found and get resources. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, or into like, I mean, which again, I don't want to be like, oh, into the normal spots of the city where it's more visible, which I think is kind of good because I'm like, they're humans. You know, you have to be able to see to know like what's
Hmm.
really going on.
Yeah.
But I remember we were living in like just outside of downtown, and after they made everybody kind of disperse, a lot of them kind of pushed towards here, and obviously like lots of mental issues, unfortunately, and like you know, drug addictions and things, but we would have to take our kids to school on this highway. And I would say probably every like fourth or fifth day, we would see like someone just with their dick out or or, you know, pooping on the side of the road. So it's fine. I was like, we all do it. I mean, I just get to have a toilet to do it. You know, unfortunately, not everybody has the same uh,
Yeah.
things as we have the privilege of having.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
It's a crazy time that we live in, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I would
It
love
is.
to circle back to plants for a moment
Yeah.
before we close out. Uh full circle. So when you first started collecting those houseplants and getting into it, were you like what were you looking for? Were you seeking something? What was drawing you to them? And like what has gardening from that point until where it is now, where it's like, how you make a living, what has it done for you in your life?
You know, when I first thought about houseplants, like, you know, like I said, so many years ago, I think honestly, I just like the idea of kind of having a little bit of nature inside. Like I've always loved nature
Yeah.
so much. Um, and I was no good with any of the plants, but again, that was just my own not deciding to learn about them. So I would say when I really fell in love with cactus, you know, with my San Miguel trip was just like loving the idea of like how grand and then like how old cactus
Mm,
can be and like having this thing that's like god this thing is you know twice my age even you know
yeah.
or you know it's gonna outlive me you know by so many years and just kind of having it be a part of my life and then hopefully that it'll keep being you know a part of my kids' lives, if that's who I'm giving it to when I die or whatever.
You're all, please love plants.
Yes.
Please love a cactus.
I know. My boys, I mean, they tolerate it. I'd say my youngest, he's definitely the most interested just in like helping. He likes just to help.
Uh-huh.
Um, my oldest works for me sometimes, and so he gets paid to do it, but I don't think he loves cactus.
Yeah. That's cool. He gets to make a little
Yeah.
money and do the family business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they learned to like, how old are they?
So I have an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 17-year-old.
So by then they've probably learned to respect and be aware of 'cause
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like that's the great thing about cactus is it really teaches them to respect plants because they can easily get hurt.
for sure. Yeah, we have. I know I get a lot of people like, how do you have with with 3 kids? And we also have 3 dogs. I'm like, I
That's
don't know. They
wild.
just learned. I mean, yeah, I don't think that like the kids that never really, they weren't ever too curious where they were gonna like poke it. Cause once I started, I think my youngest was, well, how many years ago was that? I guess he was younger, but it was never like an issue, honestly.
Mm.
Um, the only thing that they have to deal with is a random spine just here and there because I'll track them in inevitably and
Yeah,
they'll end up
dude.
on the rugs or the couch and they're like, but they know now we have a little tweezer set and they just be like, I have another one and I just go pick it out.
That happens in my house too. My
Yeah.
girlfriend's always like, another one it's in the blanket this time, or whatever. Or it's in Sage's foot.
Uh-huh. Yep.
My
Mhm.
son calls them owies anytime he
Oh
sees a
no.
cactus. Owie, look at
Oh.
owie. Cool, owies. So
Oh
yeah.
gosh. That's
Do,
cute.
do you think you'll pass any of it down? Like, do you see one that maybe shows more interest than the others?
Um,
Ones that's most like you?
I mean, I would say, like I said, my youngest son is probably the most like me, but I know he's still, at 8. He's just kind of he loves to do a lot of copying. So he just started wanting to play basketball because my oldest plays basketball and
Cool.
he's drawing because my husband's like also an artist. He's amazing. So he's doing a little
Wow.
drawing now. So I think he just likes to pick up the things. He's also very like clingy and he loves to snuggle and stuff. So I think he just kind of picks up what the family members are doing so he can be like them. So we'll see what he does in a few years.
Yeah, totally. That's the cool thing with kids. They evolve so much and
Mhm.
their interests change constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So for the business, where can people find it and what type of services do you offer? How does that work?
Yeah. So as far as like finding me, I don't have a website. I have Instagram, which is my cactus hood.
Mm-hmm.
Google, you can Google me. So my actual business name is Cactus Queen DFW,
Okay.
uh, which was also a little bit of my take on. I basically was like, I'm like a trap queen, only spikier.
Fuck
uh,
yeah.
so we have Cactus Queen as the actual business name.
Cool.
Um, and then we really just have tons of cactus to buy. We've started working recently with like some designers for like restaurants and some hotel stuff.
Nice.
Um, we don't right now offer any like actual landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've helped a few people like kind of design a little bit like how to set things up and how they look good, but we don't like go out and install or anything right now. But I would
Yeah.
like to offer that
I,
once we
I could
can.
see it evolving into that for sure. You
Yeah.
certainly have the inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. God, I was up there working all day today and I got to go back and work because we're about to get tons of rain. So got to
Oh
move some
man.
stuff.
Well, I really
Yeah.
appreciate your time today and for coming back
Yeah.
to talk to me. And I'm excited to see what unfolds for you. I hope one day I have a friend that's in Dallas. She's also a photographer. She's a music photographer. I'll have to go
Great.
visit her one day and
Yeah.
see my friends in Austin and come by and check out Cactus Queen.
Heck yeah. You got to do it.
All right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. My Cactus Bad, My Cactus Hood, everyone. If everyone could please like, review, and subscribe to the podcast and hit that share button, we would both appreciate that greatly. Okay, bye.